Well, good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Gonna throw together a set of, already got a set built. Did this a little while ago. F11, Proline F11s with Hoosiers and foams. But I picked up a few better things for them. Deuces Wild. You can see here, these are the heavy, what's that say? Heavyweight short course rim, drag racing standard foam pair. These are a real flat, real firm foam, and they're better quality than what was stock. And I also picked up, no name brand on them, these are corrupted carbon 12 bolt, kind of a little wave, 12 bolt beadlock rings, carbon fiber. From Corrupted Carbon. I'm going to put those on there, so I'm going to throw these things together real quick, and they have their own nuts in there. I believe those are aluminum in there, so I'm going to go ahead and throw these puppies together and take these apart, swap some foams around. I've got another set of tires just like this I'll be doing. They're on the other rig right now, the Chuckworks Redshift. That one's too big for that. Let me see, where did I put the other two? There they are. There they are. That one's not it, so it must be that one, because I know I've got one. Okay. That right. Let's go ahead and, whenever you use an electric driver, it's always a wise choice to start or fit, seat your bolt or loosen them, get them started loosened by hand, or get them started into the threads by hand before you grab the drivers and go to them. A lot of times these drivers, they're, they've got improper torque settings, so you strip things, holes out, you strip ends out. So it's just, like say, wise to use a hand wrench to get your nuts or your bolts either tight or loose. And then once they're loosened up, then just go. Sure saves a lot of time this way. That's what I mean. This one's a little whacked out. I'm gonna have to take a grinder and take off a little of those ends. It's kind of neat drivers, these gyros. And speed it up, slow it down by how fast you go. So you start by pushing the button. It doesn't do nothing. The minute you turn it away, it'll start going. So gotta be careful. You don't want to over tighten. Start stripping out things if you turn it the wrong way with these gyros. So you always got to be kind of aware if you're working with a lefty loosey righty tighty thread or a lefty tighty righty loosey thread. Because if you go the wrong way, you could strip something out, the heads, the threads, any of the above. So we'll pop these puppies off. And lose overall a little bit of weight, grammage on these things. Gain 6 extra bolts to lock them into place. Okay. Had these built for about a month and a half or so. Of course, I'm in Michigan and it's winter. Okay. Open these bad boys up. This is my first experience dealing with Deuces wild stuff. They usually do crawlers, most typically. Looks like they're from Texas. If I had to guess, don't turtle. That'd be a good one on the drags. To lay those flat and get them flattened out. Okay, so now on the other set of these, I did a video and I taped them. Did some tape around there, and I'm not real happy with the way it turned out. So these foams, this is one of the biggest differences here, is you see these blue foams that come stock are crowned. When you're drag racing, you would think that Proline would have, been forethoughtful enough to consider that when you're drag racing, you don't want anything crowned. You want that stuff flat. So that's the biggest thing. You see how flat actually it looks like it's even a little kicked up at the end. Now you can grind these down, but these are just soft. I mean, look how easy they are to squeeze. These are, a bit firmer. You can see I'm not really pushing that much harder, or not pushing any harder really. And you can see these ones go a lot, push in a lot more. So these should be a lot nicer rim or foam in the rim. See, it might be a little bit of a bear to get in though, so I don't want to push them down and fold them up because they're hard. I don't want to put any weak spots in them. A lot of people will do that though. Just fold the foams. These ones, fold them up. They're soft. These ones pinch down, but they're firm. I mean, so I don't want to kind of mess them up. Something to think about when you're building your tires if you're using this set of foams. Now I know a lot of people are using beadlock rings. I've seen, or wheel rings. I've seen a lot of posts, and a lot of people 3D printing wheel rings, and those could work out pretty well. I've seen other people are running without foams at all, which ends, firm enough tire that could work out good. These don't seem to be bad, but a little soft, I think, if you wanted to try to run that way. Ooh, yeah, make sure they're in right, because these have a lip around them. Something else you've got to notice. Yeah, they got a lip around the one side, so that's actually for the back. So I got that on backwards. Because that reason I know that's for the back is because these rings got seat in there. So that extra width in there is a little slide to the back. So let's give it a shot here. Let's see how these do. They are definitely a firm foam. Kitty, kitty. Definitely a firm foam. I don't fill that tire out much, but I suppose that's no big deal. Definitely go on there snug. That's all right. It should. These around. bead out from underneath. Okay. Looks pretty decent. Snap in. Just doing a little pushing back and forth. You can see the beads kind of sticking up. And as I push it around, you can kind of get it set a little bit. So that's all I'm doing is kind of just pushing the phones back, working the tighter edge a little bit, trying to get that bead to naturally seat a little easier. It's going to be much easier when you're putting your bead locks in. Your rings themselves, putting them on. Okay. Where people, I think, make some of their mistakes seating the rings is they just kind of throw them together and not realizing that bead's got to kind of slide into that groove real well. If you don't have that pre-position, you just drop your rings on there and start squeezing it. You're going to squeeze the tire, sure, squeeze it together, but your bead's not going to be seated in your groove. And then when you spin up, your tire is likely to pop out. I do believe that is where a lot of people end up having their problems. I don't think it's going to be any easier to try it this way. We'll try it. Did one the typical way, slide the foam in the ring. I said, now you can see these are tight. These are made for these split six or F11 rims. So they are a snug one, no doubt about it. But that's good. That's because they'll fit nice and well. You've got to get them in place. They are a little tough. Just like your bead, you got to kind of lift the edge over the little hip lips here. That's probably why that one went together a little tougher. Pushing and fitting. Let's see how this works. We'll do an inside out and see if it works a little bit easier on this. I don't think it will, but we'll find out. Actually, might not be bad. Doing a rollover is pretty easy, actually. Almost probably a little easier than trying to slide the whole tire and foam into the rim. You know, just sliding the rim into the sliding the rim into the tire with the foam already installed. It was a little bit easier that time, as you see, just flipping the thing around. Get this back set. Pull those over, make sure they're all pretty even. Yeah, see, once they're slapped together, that ain't bad. They were a little hollow when I first put it together, but once I got the tire stretched and everything in place, the beads seated right, that was actually pretty good. These should all look good here. Good around this side. Got any kind of markings here? I can do that. Let me do it this way. Got some writing on the inside underneath one of the holes, and then there's one of the wings on the face which has a support bar right in between them. I'm just going to line those two up. Snap it together. Bead set. Okay. Time for some rings. Not bad. 17 minutes in. We're all flipped around. Getting ready to ring it. Now what I do with these rings is I start with 6, one every other hole, almost like you would for a stock setup. Line it up. Set a couple screws and some threads. So you start them by hand, that way you don't cross thread and you know you're going in nice and square. Makes it easy. Okay, let's go to this one then. I've already got threads started, yep. Already had threads in the 6 holes. So I'm doing a little touch up to all of them here. I did a little work to the tarp setup, just a little rearrangement from where I was at last night in the short vid. Things you do when you can't sleep. Okay. Now, just like doing a car. a little bit at a time, just to seat them all down. Say, just like a car, you're jumping straight across. Now these are even numbers instead of odd, so you're skip, jump, skip, jump. Too much almost. You don't want to jump to the one right next. You want to, just like doing a car, like I say, you want to kind of keep things even all the way down. Let's go ahead and do this one. A little bit of time, just enough to get them nice and locked in place. Now, okay, now you can kind of hear things tighten. Real slow with the electric driver, just until they start snugging. Here, just kind of dry down a little bit. That's where you stop. Okay, now start the other ones. Now I haven't had screws in these, so they may or may not start easily. One in nicely. So the biggest thing about starting them is getting them square and in the hole. Sometimes it's hard to tell what you're doing if you're not, doing it by hand. You use a driver on it, even just a hand driver, and not using the finger thing. Sometimes it's a little trickier, but when you got the electric drivers, most absolutely. Got to make sure you don't cross thread. If you've already got threaded holes started, that's even more reason, especially in plastics. Plastic can be very easy to strip out with these, metal, aluminum, steel screws, stainless steel, whichever, titanium. That plastic doesn't have a chance. So it's always wise, start with a hand wrench, and then transfer. Okay, you can see when the ends are a little shot like this one is, it's not the perfect end for it, which is why you don't really want to drive it hard. Yes, these are homemade drivers. Took an end off a other driver, tips weren't bad, and bought a multi-pack countersunk bit, which fits in your quarter inch driver. Put the shaft in the countersunk hole, added the driver, called it good. And like I say, finish up by hand, because you can feel that tightness. And just like a car, cross patterns. So go next to the one you did on the other side and jump straight across to this side. Next to the one you did the other side, and straight across to the other side. That way you know you get all of them. It's a bit loose. You can see that. You can see that one was a bit out. The first one I did there, just double check, and then you can just kind of touch them all at the last time. Just give them a little push to make they're all about even. And that's what there is to it. So what I did again. And this last one allows you to tell, you got one just a little loose. You can get it almost the same as everything The other one's on there, so it's just a lot easier to do. And I already like the profile of the tread pattern. It's already much flatter. Push here. Just kind of much flatter than it was. Make sure it's seated well, feels good. There you go. 2 sets of tires. Much flatter than it was. Looks better. It should be good. We're just at 30 minutes. So there you go. Installing some Deuces Wild No Prep foams into some F11 Proline rims with some Proline Hoosier tires. 9 belts, no rings. We'll see how they end up doing. All right, man. Have a good one.